So in this second lesson, we're going to be looking at the specific internal components of different devices that we spoke about in the first lesson. So first of all, we're going to look at the mobile devices, so internal components of a mobile device. So talking about a mobile CPU. Now, so a mobile CPU is the same as a standard CPU in the sense that it processes instructions. However, the difference here is that it's designed to consume minimal power. As we know, mobile devices would have to use a battery, and so what we don't want to do is drain the battery whilst we're doing something. And so in terms of it being able to process information, it does so without needing to have additional cooling. So to make sure that the form factor, as in the shape of the device, is small enough, we're going to use a CPU that does not require a lot of cooling, because a normal PC would have a fan that's used to cool it down on top of the CPU, and so that the mobile CPU would not have that because of the limitation of size. Okay, in terms of a mobile device, also these days they would have a touch screen, and a touch screen acts as both the input as well as the output, because the touch element gives the input and then the screen gives us the output. So in terms of a touch screen, how does it actually work? Now, what it has three parts to it. It has what we know as a digitizer, a processor, and then there's the screen itself. So within the digitizer, we have a digitizer action, which detects when the user touches the glass, okay, and what sort of action is being done. And then using that touch, we have a processor action, which really calculates the length, direction, and number of touches. So for example, talking about the length, so if you press and hold a particular part of the screen, it would obviously do a different function to if you, let's say, you pinch the screen or you swiped. Okay, so the processor action is what figures that part out. And then the screen action itself then turns whatever it is that you did there to the action that the device would actually do. For example, say turning on the screen with a click that you've done, so launching a particular action, or turning off on and on a pixel to make it display that particular part of the mobile device. Okay, so moving on to the next part, and then the next thing is built-in cameras. We already spoke about this previously in the last lesson, but they would have a built-in camera, and the idea of that is that it allows you to be able to capture whatever it is that you wanted to capture. Now, in terms of what the limitations of that is, when we use a digital zoom, for example, it's a bit like cropping an image, okay? Because what you do is, if you cropped an image and then you enlarge that image, what happens is it becomes more blurry, it becomes more pixelated. So when you're using a smartphone or a tablet and you're using the zoom function on it, what happens is you are effectively focusing in on that area, but the number of pixels within that area is not being increased. So effectively what you're going to end up with is a more blurry image. In as much as it gets zoomed in, it's more blurred. So that is one limitation of using a built-in camera. Another device within a mobile is a GPS receiver. Now, a GPS receiver works by triangulating its location using information from satellites out in space. And what that does is it uses three coordinate points to figure out where it is, using longitude and latitude coordinates. Now, if you want to read a bit more about that, just search online. This particular link here, which is at the bottom of the screen, will give you a bit more information on that as well. Okay, we have also a Wi-Fi receiver within the mobile device. The idea of having a Wi-Fi receiver, as the name suggests, is to give you Wi-Fi connection so that you're not tied to a location and you can get onto a network. Now, with that, it also determines the strength away from that receiver so that you can know how much data is able to be transmitted at any given point to the hotspot. And then it would also have a 3G or 4G antenna. So you might notice when you go buy certain devices like a tablet that they would have within it built in a 3G or 4G antenna, and that allows you to be able to receive and make phone calls from it, as well as being able to have mobile data. Now, there will be other devices perhaps that don't have that embedded, and of course it means that you're not able to then use it for mobile data. Okay, and it uses that to determine the strength in relation to a mobile mast. Okay, here is an exam question that I would like to go through together briefly. So spend a few minutes reading this question and then see if you can answer it. You can pause this video at this point, but for time purposes I'm going to maybe move it on, but have a read. Okay, hopefully you've paused this and given yourself time to be able to answer that question, and then I'll move it on to show you the MART scheme answers. Okay, so that concludes this lesson.